What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful day today. Beautiful day. 70 degrees right now, but earlier I was out doing a little hiking and it was hot. Have some fresh water here with some ice. Delicious. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, I don't know if anybody knows what this is. I don't know what it is, but it brings back memories in my house. Ever since I was alive, my mother had one of these in the living room or in her bedroom. And it was on the bureau, and it sat there for years and years and years and years, and then decades and decades. Well, I found one of these in an antique shop, and I grabbed it because it reminded me of my years growing up. And I was always fascinated with this character. I don't know what they call it. I don't know. Looks magical, like the outfit. But I remember we had this, and it was there since the beginning of my life, or even before that. Anyway, today we're gonna eat dinner soon, but I don't know what day. We're gonna get something. We're ordering today. Kind of feel like some chicken wings. I don't know what the rest of my people inside want, but chicken wings. You know, years ago I didn't eat chicken wings at all. I mean, the buffalo wing ones. It's only in recent times that I started eating them, and not that often, once in a while. But you know, years ago. And I hate the messy ones. I like the ones that are drier. You know, I don't like the ones where, you know, they bring them at a restaurant. Like, for example, Guy Fieri. He's got an awesome place in Vegas. Delicious food. I highly recommend it. The problem is that, you know, I want a sink next to the table where I'm eating so I can constantly wash my hands. All that sauce on my fingers, very messy. But they have awesome chicken wings and a lot of other good stuff too, not just chicken wings. I just, you know, either that or I want a long towel, like a beach towel, and just wipe my hands until I get to the end, and then give it to the waiter and tell him bring me another one. So, yeah, today I've had SETI on my mind. SETI. I'm one of those people that I'm overly fascinated with the universe, with any possibilities of extraterrestrials out there. And I know that they have to be, I mean, I don't know, but I have a logical belief that there's got to be something. Got to be something. The place is too big. Are you telling me the universe got it right that this one time here, that's it? There's got to be something, or many, many things. But I remember, you know, years ago when I was like in the 5th grade, that's like 4th grade or so, I really developed this fascination with alien life, the universe, all of that stuff. And back then there was very little information because the technology was in the infancy stages. It still is, but now we're kind of like getting into the toddler age. And I remember we had that, I don't know, what was it called? The troll, the scholastic thing, you know, it was like a thin like newspaper, right? And they had maybe like 30 choices to buy books. And every month or so, we'd get, you know, they'd pass it out, my teacher would pass it out, and I'd go through it. And you had to get 3 books to get a poster. So either you wanted them or either you didn't want them. You'd get the 3 just for the poster. A good gimmick to sell, you know, extra books. And I remember one time I got a Benji poster. Used to be a dog back then, very intelligent, but I ended up getting a Benji poster. But anyway, so there was a book in there called Earth's Hidden Mysteries. and I saw that, and it was an artist's rendition of Flying Saucers, the cover. And when I saw that, immediately I said, I have to get this book. I have to get this book. So I had a neighbor who was, he's an older guy, but he also had a fascination with the universe, with alien life, all that stuff. And so the book finally comes a week later. I grab it, I go home with it, and immediately I go to my neighbor's house, and we're sitting in the kitchen now. It's like I'm probably, 10, 11, around there, and we're sitting in the kitchen. It's night out. So obviously this was around fall time when the clocks changed, and I'm in there with him, and he's looking at the book, and he's like, "Wow, where'd you get this?" And I said, "I got it, at school." And there's a chapter in there about UFOs, and he starts reading it to me, and I'm sitting there, enjoying the whole thing, and he's like, fascinated too. Now, all of those stories in there are explainable. I haven't seen any UFO story that's not explainable, unless it's some weird, fake thing with a flying frisbee and somebody took a picture. But most of these things, logically, you can explain them away. So anyway, when the internet came around, I ended up getting another copy of the same book. Somebody had a used copy on eBay or something, so I bought it. And started looking up all the stories that were in there, and they're all explained away, like they've been debunked. The one with the missing aircraft there over the Bermuda Triangle, Steven Spielberg used that premise for his movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but that was explained away too. And the Bermuda Triangle is nothing more than a hoax. It's like there's no more crashes in that triangle area than any other. That's a mama's boy. They want to get home, give mom a kiss on the forehead. They miss mom, so they're in a hurry. But anyway, there's a lot of places on the planet where you can draw a triangle that size, and you'll find in the past 100 years there's been plenty of ships going down in that area, or airplanes. So there's nothing magical about the Bermuda Triangle. But to make it sound magical, it sells books. So I've been fascinated, and so then I get into the SETI thing. There was a time when Congress would authorize, millions of dollars to fund that, and then they cut the funding as if that's the, big thing out of the budget. So anyway, now I think it's privately funded. But I would follow that. I'd get magazines and all kind of stuff and read up, and not one time, except for the wow signal, which I'm not impressed by, but nothing, crickets. So when that was going up, people back then, they thought, once we put these dishes here on Earth and aim them into the universe, there's got to be tons of chatter, a lot of talking up there, and nothing, crickets, nothing. I know the place is big, so logically it could be that, okay, so here's the Milky Way. We're out here, one of the quieter neighborhoods of the galaxy, right? If there's life 10,000 light years from here, 15,000 light years from here, 20,000 light years from here, and they're slightly ahead of us, or maybe they're 1,000, 2,000 years ahead of us, which is significant. Believe me, in 2,000 years, can you imagine humanity, the craziness with AI, robots, and all that? But I mean, 2,000 years, the way knowledge doubles every 6 months, 8 months, boom, doubles. In a couple thousand years, it's going to be unrecognizable. I think in 100 years, it's going to be unrecognizable. But anyway, so let's say that there is a civilization 20,000 light years from here. Maybe there's a few of them. And maybe they're 5,000 years more advanced than us, which would be extraordinary. Well, that signal is going to have to travel for several thousand years to reach us. So we're pointing out there and nothing, because the signal has not reached us yet. That's the logical explanation. The explanation that I don't want to hear about is that we're the only ones. the entire universe, and this is it. That's very sad. Very sad. I'm interested in finding civilizations, that are younger than us, but I'm more interested in finding civilizations out there that are advanced, hundreds of thousands of years ahead of us, millions of years ahead of us. And I can't even see how it would be flesh, if there is such a thing as flesh out there. I would think that the way we've advanced and we're heading towards artificial intelligence, robots, computers, things like that, I would think that whoever's out there has figured that out too. And anything that's out there that's really advanced would have to be mechanical, right? Artificial. But I think of it all the time. It's like very strange. We exist. We don't know much about where we are. I mean, we know we're inside this thing called the universe. We don't know what's beyond the universe. We don't know if there are other realities that are not universe-based, that have nothing to do with empty space, with round spheres floating, and dropping, and, suns and things like that. Maybe it's something like unimaginable, a different kind of reality. And here we are. And the question has always been, why is there something rather than nothing? And that's always boggled my mind. I always thought of it. I still think about it now. When I was a kid, I would always say, imagine if there was nothing, not even empty space. And then that gets me really thinking, like, I can't imagine not even empty space. I can imagine nothingness. I can imagine emptiness. I go in a room, no furniture, no bed, no rug, nothing. It's empty. I understand that concept. But I can't understand a universe with nothing in it, including empty space. And maybe that's an impossibility, and that's why it exists the way it does. But, and then I think about, maybe it's the universe that's, okay, so now they say, let's say for a round number, 100 billion light years across, right? That's what they can see. That's the observable, that's the event horizon. But let's say that that's nothing. That's a drop in the ocean. Maybe the real universe is, 100 quadrillion times bigger than what we see. And then once that's done, it's just empty space. There's nothingness. So you have this object called the universe right here, and then the rest of it's just emptiness. There's nothing in it. But no matter what it is, it's strange, and the human mind cannot wrap itself around it. No matter how hard you try and analyze it, no matter what kind of thinking you try and, employ, or, what kind of thinking you try and, thinking outside the box, thinking in a strange way, it doesn't matter. You cannot figure this damn thing out. And the infinity thing is weird to me too. I mean, how do you have, they say, that's why I'm not into this beginning of a universe concept. If the universe is undefined in terms of size, right, then how can you determine how old it is? Because you can't reverse engineer something that you don't know how big it is. If something is 10 miles big, right? Say it's 10 miles big, and every year it grows by a half a mile. Somewhere 20 years ago it began, or it started from a tight point. But if you don't know how big it is, these numbers they throw, 13.8 billion years old, those are irrelevant. You don't know how big the universe is, so how are you coming up with these numbers? Something tells me the universe is much, much bigger than what we think it is. Like much bigger. And how do you not run out of material, the matter? Where's that come from? And empty space. What's the beginning of empty space? I mean, even that, it's just strange. I mean, realistically, we shouldn't be here at all, because it's so strange that, I always thought when I was a kid that, you could get to the edge somehow. And I would always ask, what's at the edge? What's after the universe? And I had an imagination that it was like some kind of solid structure that we're inside of. Like the Super Friends had an episode one time where they got stuck in some kind of bottle, and the bottle inside looked like the reality we live in, but it was tiny, but to them it was a world. And finally, at some point, they got to the wall, and there was a ruby or some kind of jewel, and Superman or one of those strong superheroes pushed it out, and they were able to escape. But I mean, no matter what, the illogical part of it is that no matter how far, how fast you travel, there's still more. There's still more. And even if there, like, let's say you find the end. Well, what's after that? What does that mean, the end? The end of what? So that's the strange part. That how do you figure out what's after? You can keep going after. We know, we're inside the house. What's after the house? The backyard. What's after the backyard? The street. What's after the street? The city. What's after that? The state, the country, the earth, right? Then you have the solar system, the galaxy, the universe. But what goes beyond that? Realistically, the galaxies are little universes on their own. But I wish to be visited by some kind of intelligent life form that is millions of years ahead of us, billions of years ahead of us, and they know all these answers. I want to learn what these answers are to these questions before I kick off the planet. It's like we pop up out of nothingness, basically. Nobody asks us. One day we're here, we're born, we gradually grow into the system, because if we popped up like adults, like Mork from Ork ended up, he arrived, on Ork they are old first and then they become babies. But it would be shocking. Like if I was born full size, full cognition, I would be blown away. Psychologically, I would have to, go to a therapist to get over, where am I? What's going on here? What is this weird place? And where was I a few minutes ago? So we're born as babies. Gradually, you start, absorbing the world. Your mind starts accepting it. But it's a weird place. So yeah, I think about it a lot, about space exploration. I'm not one of these people, we could use the money here on Earth. I want to spend the money in space too. I feel like there's a lot of breakthroughs that happen as a result of space research that people don't even know about. A lot of the computers we use are a result of space research. Anything that's scientific in nature that we research always benefits humanity. From medicine to computers, benefits us. But I hope we're not the most advanced thing out there. I have a hard time believing it. I'd rather believe in the dark forest theory, the concept. That's where, here we are, right? And all the other life forms out there know we exist, but they're hiding. And maybe they have, what's this big deal? Like people are like, why aren't we picking up any signals? We have jammers here. And we're a new civilization, basically. You're talking about, past 120 years we've been messing around with technology. Prior to that, we were working with rocks. So, can you imagine something that's thousands of years more advanced than us? The jammers they would have? They may be using such things that we can't even pick up. But what gets me is that, they always talk about Voyager 1 and 2, and they say every so often we have to build bigger dishes to pick up the signals because they're so far away, and they're not even one light day away. They're not even 24 light hours away from us, and we have to build these big massive antennas. All right, their signal is weak to begin with, but they're in our backyard, not even a light day away, right? So imagine something, even if it's full power, that's broadcasting from 30,000 light years from here. And we think we can pick that up? I don't know. And what about if they transmitted and the signal has already passed us like 300 years ago? You know, you can't bring it back and hear it all over again. It's gone. It's gone. But, you know, and maybe if there's another civilization that's as old as us, well, they may be on the other side of the galaxy. So you're talking about 100,000 light years for its signal to reach here. By then, who's going to be around? But, you know, and because we're here and we're preoccupied with all different things, family, you know, whatever's going on the news, politics, we tend not to concentrate that there's a whole weird thing out there that we're part of. And we are the universe come to life. I mean, we think like we're pulled out of some other reality and put here. We are the universe. Somehow the universe, not consciously, but somehow it figured out how to create something to be able to identify itself and know that it actually exists. But it's strange, very strange. And I'm not one to believe in fairy tale story. If I don't know something, I say I don't know how it happened. I don't create, you know, nonsense to explain that which I don't know. Right? I just say I don't know. Maybe someday down the line we'll know, but you know. And keep in mind, about 100 years ago, they thought we were the only show in town in terms of a galaxy. They didn't know that there was all these other galaxies outside of our own. They thought whatever we could see with the naked eye, that was it. They could see Andromeda, right? They would look, they'd say, oh, look at that. That looks like a star. Well, now we know Andromeda. One of the scientists said, I don't think that that's part of this world. I think that that's a different world outside of this world. Everybody laughed, chuckling, you know. It turns out he was right. We are separate from Andromeda. And in between it's just emptiness, nothing. Even within the galaxy, star to star, emptiness. At nighttime, like in the desert, like down in Barengo Springs, if you look up in the sky on a clear night, and usually it's clear, it's unbelievable the amount of stars that you look at. Unbelievable. And that's a drop in the bucket. That's in the thousands. It's not even that impressive. It looks impressive. I was in Hawaii a few years back, and I was looking at the sky at night, you know, and I was overwhelmed. And yet that's only thousands of stars. Now imagine, and it's a teeny weeny little section of the galaxy, but imagine if you could see the entire solar system. Like if you could pull back far enough to look at it, you would be blown away, because there are anywhere from about 300 billion stars, 300 billion in a galaxy, and we're considered, you know, average to small, and compared to you know, other galaxies that are out there. There's some galaxies that are millions of light years across. See that plane, it's doing circles. I don't know, it got lost. But ever since I was conscious, ever since I had self-awareness, I've been thinking about the universe. You know, always. I think about it so much that I should have my own private telescope up top on the house. But it's tough to see stars in the city. Too much light pollution here. If I had a house in the desert, I would have a big telescope, you know, and I would be out there aiming it into the universe. But it's these distances, they're so vast. Light, which travels at 186,000 miles per second, 300,000 kilometers per second. Right? Even that's too slow. Even that's too slow. So they theorize there's got to be wormholes, right? Well, we've yet to find one. I don't know. And then how do you get back? You go through a wormhole, who knows where you end up, right? And then what do? How do you get back? There's no map to that. Nobody knows how to get back. But I'm of the belief that this place called the universe is much, much, much stranger than we can imagine. And just to plug Steven Spielberg, he does have a brand new UFO movie coming out. I don't know if they're done filming. I think they're done filming. Now it's all the editing and sound and all that good stuff. But I'm a fan of his. So, you know, when he does stuff like that, I look forward to it. You know, when I was a kid and I went to see Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I couldn't wait to get in that theater. I got my father. I said, "You want to go see a movie?" And he said, "Yeah, let's go." So we went and we saw the movie. Now I don't know what my father's opinion was in terms of I think my father, you know, believed that these things do exist out there. We exist. Has there been ever anything in the universe where the universe only has one of? You know, we have stars, many. We have galaxies, many planets. It's estimated that every star has at least one planet going around it. So why would life be any different? Now, intelligent life is a little bit more difficult to create, but it's got to be out there. It's got to be out there. And I'm hoping, you know, I go to the desert, I'm like, I'm here, come now. Come now when no one's around. I will, you know, I am not afraid. I will come aboard. You can take me, you know, take me around a little bit. Introduce me to the captain and to Neil. Let me know some of your knowledge. Let me know what's going on here, you know. And now the new thing is, are we inside a black hole? Is the universe inside of a black hole? I say no. I think that that's a ridiculous theory. I think whoever came up with that is looking for attention. But you got to think about, you know, how big is this black hole? Black hole's that big? And if the gravitational pull of a black hole is strong enough to keep light from escaping, then how come we're not torn up into pieces from all that gravitational pull? So I don't think that that's realistic to think that we're inside of a black hole. Like there's a prime reality and then this is us. That would be even more, you know, of a head game. Yeah, here we are, we're inside a black hole. But there's gotta be a prime reality. A prime reality. You know, you know, and the ancient people, you know, even you know, a few hundred years ago, they would just make up stories. They would just make up stories about reality, about where we came from. That's not what I want. I want real information, not folklore. So, getting hungry. I don't know what's going on. I could go for chicken wings. I don't know. Chicken wings seem good right now to me. I can go for a lot of things. I can go for a steak. Maybe some Wagyu steak, Kobe. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You hear that? Those fire engines are powerful. I'd love to drive one of those. That and Peterbilt, Kenworth. Yeah, I go to the truck stop and I check them out. Some of them are just amazing. You know, Peterbilt, Kenworth, same company owns both. High quality. You know, you look inside, the new ones especially, and it looks like you're on a 747. Beautiful technology. I like the standard ones. They got like, I don't know, 30, 40 gears. LAPD. But yeah, I'd like to go somewhere like where there's a lot of space, like on Earth, and drive a Peterbilt or a Kenworth. But, you know, I don't have a license for that. But, you know, just a little bit, you know, just do a few loops. Do the horn. I mean, this side. But I really like the Peterbilt. And, you know, Kenworth is a very, very close second. It's behind by like a quarter inch. Yeah, and I watch videos on these things all the time. I wouldn't mind having one just to cruise around in, you know, my neighborhood. Go to the movies, take 2 spaces up at least. Peterbilt. All right. Otherwise, I'll be here all night yapping away. So that's it for now. Ciao.